Hey, I am Ellis. It is time to find out what ego means from the new release off of the BTS album, where J-Hope makes us have the best time ever with those awesome horns. Because that's my ego. That's my ego. Alright, explained by a Korean, which is apt. And of course, I do watch me some DK news, DK TV, but the news, typically what I go in there for. You know, I rarely I probably watch like 7 minutes at a time of their news. It's weird, I don't finish the videos, but I go there a lot. But I think y'all do that to me. I think you come here a lot, but you don't finish the videos, and that's okay. There's space for all of our behaviors. Speaking of behaviors, take your ass to some Patreon. Go over there, sign up, do that thing, and take your hard-earned money and then put it in my empty wallet. That's how that works. Let's go.
We're now going to...
Oh, and me asking for your money, that's my ego.
Rest to some steps which are a bit more difficult. Ready, set, and begin.
That's a lot of that song to be playing.
The intro sequence you've just seen is the intro BTS used for their debut trailer, Intro Too Cool for School. Then you see BTS's music videos rolling down from recent to the past. You can already see that this song is going to be a story from the past to the present. Also, what if I said Ego is very similar with BTS's other song, Love Myself? And that also Ego is like the ultimate wrap-up for the whole Jungian psyche theory, which I'll explain throughout and at the very end of the video. So J-Hope tries to go back to his past self, but as he tries to walk in the opposite direction of hope and ego signs, which are his current self, it's as if he's walking on a treadmill. He realizes that time only flows forward and there are no ifs in life. In short, you can't change your past. J-Hope suddenly faints, which might be a reference transition borrowed from his symptom in Hwayangyana, and talks about how he remembers the good old days. How the devil always whispered, "Do you want to go back and become normal again?" Then he shows his inner conflicts of questioning, answering, and whipping himself on whether he regrets his choice of becoming an idol or not. You can see that J-Hope is getting the standard routine checkup, and he seems totally fine. He says that the conclusion is always the same, no matter how many times he goes through that process of, what if I didn't choose this path? He knows for a fact.
Now, I cannot stop focusing on how awesome the song is and how awesome J-Hope is, and I'm taking in the meaning. But every time there's a clip of the song, I'm just like, this song is dope. And then I'm like, oh yeah, we're trying to be getting a deeper inside meaning other than the song is just awesome to listen to.
The fact that nothing will actually change. So him fainting symbolizes his daily tantrum to his inner self, wanting to be treated as a patient who's tired and hurt of his current life. However, even in the inside, he reassures himself on how much love he receives from armies and how much joy he has due to his status, and then snaps back to reality from his daily time slip of what if. Basically, he's like,
damn, this job sucks. I got no privacy. I have to fly around all these places, practice every single day, can't even go to the movies. I miss the good old days. But yeah, I guess I'm lucky. Look at all the love I'm receiving from Army and all the good stuff I get to buy and experience compared to all the other people in the world. So let's not complain, it won't go back to normal anyways.
I like that summation. I approve that summation. The aggregation of J-Hope's emotions.
Now J-Hope finally accepts that his past and present were his choice, and he returns to his journey and goes on forward. This road is the map of the soul, which has trust, hope, myself, ego, and my way on its way.
That I did not notice at all.
Once he accepts the fact that it was all his choice and there's no regret and that the future is shining, the music turns into a very bright, celebrative African or samba feel rhythm. The constant blinking of J-Hope represents how many layers the human soul can have.
I thought the whole damn song was happy. I listened to that song like 5 times yesterday, and from the moment I put it on, like when the beat first comes in, like now we're going to try some steps that are a little more difficult, or however the line goes, like the whole song is banging and happy.
You can see that he's happily dancing with his persona, shadow, and ego. Here we can see that ARMY is a part of him too by seeing the stars and the color purple used as the background.
Let's just throw another awesome song into the mix. So dope.
Actually, while analyzing the song, I found out that there are a lot of similarities with the song Love Myself. And I'll tell you the similarities throughout the rest of the video. The two songs have basically the same theme and message.
I'm scared of these copyright trolls, dude. This shit, like, it sucks when you make a video and then it gets blocked by YouTube. So I'm just pausing. Being real.
Some more things to notice. If you rotate the road's typography, it reads kilo.
I still don't get the L's and R's. Kilo. Hiro. Hiro. Does that sound close?
This way in Korean. Also, you can notice that the car plate says BTS and their debut date. Plus, the speed limit indicates 7, which might mean, let's not go too fast, let's go all together. Then J-Hope thinks about the life as Jung-Seok before J-Hope. He realizes that there would have been only regret without hope. Hope, as in double meaning, J-Hope and hope. As much as Jung-Seok loved dancing, which was also his dream, if there was no J-Hope, he would have questioned his existence. Then he comically gasps, shuddering to that thought, and shows funny pictures of himself as several gods. So in this part, J-Hope is appreciating both Jung-Seok that loved dancing purely and J-Hope that made that passion and
you gotta love that he's got a little crown right there.
Skill fruitful and recognizable. He confesses in the lyrics that now all the concerns have finally came out of his mouth and have been relieved. In the meantime, we can see Hope Records change into Hope's Record. The music he had inside him, which he had planned, has officially become a record, a legacy. You can spot all of his works.
Oh, Hope World, I did not notice that in Airplane. What? Oh, and Chicken Noodle Soup. That is dope. That's crazy cool. I did not notice that. Still, man, I think Daydream and Ego. I mean, Daydream's off as, off the Hope World, but like, those are like probably my favorite tracks by J-Hope.
On the window pane. One hope, one soul, one smile, and one you. These are all factors that compose J-Hope. It's the unchangeable himself. And the you in that sentence is obviously ARMY.
Nay. No. No. Nay. No. It's no, right? No is you? Nega. I thought Nega was you. Like Nega Mola. You don't know.
Oh, and don't miss the chickens from Chicken Noodle Soup. Then we enter the tailor shop, which is obviously a reference from the movie The Kingsman.
I did not know it was a reference to the Kingsman, but I was going to point out that it reminds me of the Kingsman because I just watched the sequel on the plane back from Africa.
In Kingsman, the main character
That's the scene.
Exy is basically a nobody that suddenly is chosen to become a...
No, it's the same opening because I have not seen the first one. I did see the first one.
In Kingsman, the main character...
Right here, I remember seeing this shot and the guy gets attacked by the villain and then the guy with the claw and they fight or whatever.
Exy is basically a nobody that suddenly is chosen to become a secret agent because of his potential and eventually ends up saving the world. The hardships of training, choice of abandoning normal life, responsibility, persona are all in common with J-Hope's situation. As J-Hope thinks a normal Chongwoo-seok kid is now kind of like having an impact near to saving the world with music and message. Also, here's another reference from Love Myself.
Sorry, Cookie. We have to take an obligatory copyright pause.
In this scene, J-Hope is looking into the mirror again with the recycled questions, but decides to stop and move away from it, and embraces his choices and shadow as well. And here we have J-Hope confidently going into the maze and saying wherever he goes is his way. All he has to do is trust himself in the maze.
Yeah, what's the word for only? Ojin? Ojin? Ego? Wait, what? Oh, I didn't hear it.
J-Hope says that wherever he went, it became his destiny and center. Hardships and sadness were all precious because he got to know himself. Now let's hear the equivalent of this part from Love Myself again. Also, in this part, J-Hope seems to be entering the future now. And there's no...
Well, I do think the inclusion of the U-turn prohibited sign with the car going in the opposite direction, that has to mean something. There's so many things that, oh, look at the J on the building. That's dope. How many times can you say dope in one reaction? Over under 10?
No going back because he has already accepted every part of him as his ego. Here comes the tricky part. In a timeline, this Blade Runner themed place is definitely the future, but the space or dimension in spatial terms would be the center of J-Hope. Let's call it the Ego City. So his whole journey of Map of the Soul was to find the center and ego of himself. This city is his fully formed ego as a mature being. Now about Carl Jung's psyche and Map of the Soul. I don't want to be too technical here about the Jungian theory and psyche and all, so I'll try to be true to the music video as possible. Basically, it all sums up with this model figure. First, we have to start with the outer world. J-Hope as he is now, which would be his consciousness and persona. Then he goes through all the inner conflicts and hops on the car and goes towards the ego. Now the ego is in short self-consciousness, or the sense of I, known to develop over time throughout life, composed of additional layers that help you define yourself. You may get to know who you are, your values, your preferences, and etc. Basically, it means knowing yourself. Second, the only scene J-Hope is found indoors is when he's in the tailor shop. So let's take this literally. He's in his inner world. Conveniently, there's a mirror, which is frequently used as a picture to depict the animus anima. Also, he opens a secret back door, a shelf, or maybe let's call it a closet. So I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but considering the fact that the animus anima is basically tied to sex roles and gender identity,
the shadow breaks up into the anima and the
Peterson,
animus.
what's up, Jordan Peterson?
The anima is the female inside the male, so to speak, and the animus is the male inside the female. And Jung believed that he could see those partial spirits manifesting themselves in people's behavior. And women, for example, could find the capacity to be aggressive and assertive because that's part of what they threw out during their course of development because of its a priori categorization as inappropriate behavior.
Maybe I'm stretching, but yeah, the message is to love and accept yourself, whoever you are. So I think there might be a possibility that the scene is actually implying gender identity. And also, behind the hidden shelf or closet, there is a dark lit space, which would obviously be the shadow inside him, similar to the space behind the door in Suga's interlude, Shadow. As I said before, the dancing space with festival vibes, rapid blinking, and a circle light with a shadow would be the self. The self, in short, is the union of the consciousness and unconscious. According to Carl Jung, the ultimate goal of the individuation process is the realization of the self. Jung said, in order to attain individuation, you need to understand and acknowledge every part of yourself, especially the unconscious, starting from the shadow, animus anima, and also the persona as well. For your info, the self is often depicted in shapes that represent totality, like a circle or the Tai Chi diagram with yin and yang, light and darkness. The self also might appear in forms of dreams, myths, and fairy tales as a superior personality, such as, for example, a king, a hero, a prophet, or maybe a god, which would explain the gods in the MV. So this space portrays that once you find yourself, you are truly happy, and the blinking means that the persona, ego, shadow, anima, animus all coexist. Last but not least, where J-Hope arrives with his car in the futuristic city setting is the fully formed adult ego that is virtualized and constructed in the future as your center. In this state, you are aware of who you are. Now, some might question, according to the diagram, why is the ego the final destination, not the self? I'm no psychology major, but here are my 2 cents. First of all, Jung stated that the ego can be assimilated by or to the self. Accordingly, the ego has a high contribution on the formation of self. Plus, well, if you're going to live on with your life, you'll belong to the outer world in the conscious realm. Of course, the shadow and unconscious coexist inside you, but it's technically a darkness inside you. So even if I were BTS, I would recognize the shadow and unconsciousness, but promote and prefer the ego to be the final destination. Another probability is that the word ego is commonly substituted by the word self. In fact, in Korean, ego and self share the same word, cha. And this word cha is also shown in J-Hope's Ego City as a signboard. To go a little bit more deeper, Freud, who formally introduced the notion of ego, divided the psyche into 3 parts: the ID, ego, and superego. And in this model, in brief, the ID was instinct, and ego was the sense of reality, balance between desire and reality, and the superego was the moral, ideal you. So logically, the ego would be the self-conscious self that would prevent you from being an animal or criminal, but also help you get what you desire. So my guess is that the realization of the ego can be seen as a good pursuit or goal for yourself in real life. Well, I must admit that the psychology part was my personal opinion, so psychology majors out there, help me in the comments. So let me conclude the whole thing for you. From who you were in the beginning, the good or bad choices you made, the path you took, the current you, and what is waiting for you in the future is all a part of you. You shouldn't be embarrassed of any part of your life or yourself. You shouldn't try to hide or deny it. All the regrets, confusions in your life are natural, but once you start to accept all of it and start truly loving yourself, at the end, it will lead to a strong and stable center and form your ego. Simply, ego could just mean discovering yourself and loving yourself.
One thing I noticed is he's holding like an actual clicker for like a PowerPoint presentation. I wonder if he, I guess maybe he's got notes on the screen, but he's actually like running through it like a whole presentation. Respect, lots of respect to preparation and execution. Regardless of whether or not you enjoy this type of video, giving educational, even if it's like a report style, educational type performances, man, it's a thing. It's a thing. And, having a nice cadence with your phrases, I think you did a good job. I guess I gotta be okay with like doing stuff like this. I don't mind being a dancing monkey. I don't mind that at all. I feel like sometimes though I'm just not even reacting, I'm just staring. But I guess just staring is a reaction. Yeah? What'd you think? Maybe? No closing comments. No closing comments, then proceeds to say sentences. So I tell you what I'm thinking about was that last segment, the last like 4 or 5 minutes, we're talking about ego and as a final destination. And I feel unsatisfied with the conclusion there. But the reason why I just sat there not saying anything is I don't have an insight. I don't actually have an opinion. But I think I don't have an opinion at all. It made me realize that I didn't have a perspective on ego as a final destination. I feel that explanation somewhat lacking. And watching that was the first time it had occurred to me that I felt the explanation of it was unfulfilled. Anyways, fun times. On to more music.